So welcome back to the SWAU's official channel with a conversation with the stars series. I'm your host, Bryan, and what a treat we've got for you. Anyone that knows me knows I'm passionate about stunts. From being a kid watching The Fall Guy has got me wondering how they do the magic behind the camera. And what a great guest we've got for you this week. He is a stunt coordinator, actor, second unit, and assistant director. It's Guy Bews. Guy, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Bryan.
And do you know what? I would list all the projects that you've been involved in, but we would be here for literally a week because literally you date back so long and you've worked on so many amazing projects. So it's difficult to choose which ones to talk about. But we will talk about your early career. But as you know, The Last of Us is on at the moment. You was involved heavily with season 1, being the stunt coordinator. So I wanted to ask, what was it like, coordinating for such an intense and cinematic show like The Last of Us? Because season 1, literally, we had a lot of action.
How do I say this? I say it's one of the biggest commitments in my life since, besides my marriage. It was a 13-month kind of between prepping and shooting in several different locations in plane rides away to figure everything out. It was definitely it's a highlight of my career. A bunch of great people. I mean, it was the first season, so there was a lot of growing pains with everybody, learning which direction we wanted to go and how to build it. But in the end, it was a great crew and a great cast. And like I said, a highlight of the career.
I mean, for me, I've never played the game, so I'm unsure of what happened. So I went into it with fresh eyes and wow, just wow. And we are going to talk about one scene, which was towards the end. But how do you approach balancing the realism and safety in such a high stakes post-apocalyptic setting?
Well, it's like always with what we do. I mean, some of the stuff we've done, or sometimes we got to recreate or reinvent, I guess you could call it. And it's just through testing and, talking about what we wanted to do and how we were going to do it, testing it. Like I say, everything on that show, I mean, it's become a blur now because it's been, I believe, almost 3 years since we did the show. But like I said, we had to put some movement into our infected people to, like I said, everything, just training actors as much as we possibly could. We had a hard time in the situation of, we didn't get as much time with actors as we always liked, just because of the situation of when we're getting scripts and prepping and shooting and the whole McGinley of it all.
I mean, was there any sequences that you were especially proud to pull off? Because I'm sure it's hard to choose because they're all extremely good.
Well, it's kind of funny. Of course, the Culdeac is the highlight of probably this series, of course.
Yeah.
It was a massive set piece that they built. And I mean, I had one of the girls that helped me was my assistant, was Maggie McDonald, who actually was in the game or helped design the game, did the mocap, did the stunt double work. So she understood everything from what Neil had done and worked with Neil. So she's such a great asset to me. So between building everything, and we had Terry Notary, who was the movement guy for all the infected people on that sequence. It was just between rehearsals and putting people together, and at some points I'd have to have Maggie running rehearsals as I was running sets, and because the same old thing, you're flat out going and you get a schedule and you got to stick to it. All my performers and people that come work for me are great people, and just that is part of your job when you got people that can show up and they can speak my language, I guess, as you would say. And here we go. Today you're going to have some ass busters. Let's have at her.
And we've got some photos here. You there with, I would say, a heavily infected person.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. That's actually my daughter, actually.
Is it really? Oh, wow.
Yes.
That is awesome. So is she an actual stunt performer, or was it a case of she went to work one day with you and ended up in makeup?
Well, no, she's actually a nurse, and then she's kind of tired with the system of the nursing world, and she says she wants to try something different. So this was a great opportunity to get her start.
Oh, wow. That must be really proud for you,
Yeah, no, it's
to
pretty
see her.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
excellent. Yeah, sorry, go on.
it's really cool. I try to keep my family out of this industry, just as it's kind of sucks the life out of you sometimes. But it's kind of like you see a lot in sports, especially in hockey. There's always lots of kids that come up from other professional hockey players. And it's kind of somewhat how the stunt industry happens too.
And then we've got you there with a stunt double, which we all recognise from, I think it's from Rec and Parks, Offerman, is it?
Yep, Nick Offerman.
Yeah, which can I just say his performance in The Last of Us was incredible, which I've never seen him act that way before. So he really knocked the socks off my feet. I mean, what was that like doubling for him? Because it's uncanny. It really is.
Nick is by far one of the nicest, gracious actors you could ever be around. He is. He's one of those people. I'm terrible with names, and he knew everybody's name on set. I don't know how he does it. It's unreal, but I mean, for myself, there were basically the only thing I really did do was some driving stuff, crashing through the gate, and a couple other little driving sequences. For Nick, there wasn't really that much work, and it just happened to be. I was like, you know, who the best double for him would be is me, so I'm going to do it.
Excellent. I mean, this show. I mean, we talk about the cul-de-sac because that was such an incredible scene. It went through social media, especially about the big guy, the big infected one, because apparently that outfit that he wore cost a lot of money. Apparently, was it 300,000 or something like that?
I would not be able to put a number on it, but yeah, definitely. And his name slips my mind, and I'm sorry. He's actually a stunt performer out of England, and a super nice guy. And I'm really sorry, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head.
In editing, we'll do by magic. We'll put him up on the screen so everyone can see who he is and his name. And I'm surprised that you remember any names, Guy, because literally the amount of work that you do, I struggle with remembering what I did yesterday. So
Yeah.
the fact that you...
I always blame it on my banging my head too many times.
Excellent. I mean, what kind of physical training and prep do the actors go through before major stunts, like the big one at the cul-de-sac, where if I'm right in saying it's like over 100 performers all at once?
Well, a lot of that we would have trained with performers and doubles first, and then when we get access, sometimes, which is hard, you might only get an hour or two of their day to come in and practice with everybody between the fights or whatever. Especially like with the bloater, we had ratchets and different wire work gags going on as he's like slamming guys and throwing guys off camera or whatever it was. So just to design all that, it's sometimes you're prying teeth. Sometimes you're working 7 days a week just so you can get actors and everybody in together, just so you can get it put together.
I bet it's nice though, when it's all over and you finish the project. I mean, have you got a ritual that you go through? When you finish your job on, say, the Last of Us, and that's it, you finish and you go home. What is the first thing that you do after finishing a big job?
Probably try to get some sleep. That's usually it's funny. You end up the adrenaline. Of course, we like to have a little party usually with everybody and celebrate the thing. It's a funny system how it works sometimes, where you can't wait till it's over, and then once it's over and you go about a week and you get all caught up and you go, geez, I kind of miss that now. What's going? It's almost like it's like having a mistress or something, I guess. When you have it, you don't want it, and when you don't have it, you want it.
Yeah, a lot of actors have commented on, say, like night shoots, that when they were doing them, they hated them. But then when they look back after, it was actually really good fun. I mean, let's talk about how you got in this industry, because I tried to count how many credits you've got for your, to your name, and I lost count. So do you know offhand how many credits you've got to your name?
I wouldn't be able to tell you. There's probably some that aren't even there even.
Wow. So how did you what was it about the stunt community that really enticed you into becoming part of it?
Well, I'm very fortunate. My dad was in the business a little bit. He was more of a horse wrangler. And then it'd be his cousin was a horse wrangler in it too. And one of the guys that were bigger into Canada, starting stunts in Canada, in Western Canada. My dad did a little bit of stunt work and worked with like Paul Newman, and he doubled Robert Redford, sorry about that. My name's slipping my mind already.
It's okay.
Smokey and the Bandit, and it's
yes, Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds. So my dad had that kind of a bit of experience, and then between John Scott and himself and doing a little bit of movie, and Alberta's a very small entity to the film world, but there was some certain reasons they always came here. It was because of the locations and look. And another good friend of mine that I used to professional rodeo with a bit was in it, Brent Woolsey, and they all started kind of doing some stuff. And then it just kind of, I started wrangling some horses on shows. I was a professional cowboy, and next thing you know, I'm starting to work. And then I went, this is not a bad way to go. And this is kind of fits up my alley, and I can ride horses really well. And just kind of started to work. And we were lucky at the time the Westerns were starting to roll in. We did a huge Japanese movie called Heaven and Earth, where we had like 1,000 mounted riders and like 2,500 extras, doing some epic scenes, big wide vistas with the mountains just west of Calgary, and kind of where it all started. And then it was moving to Vancouver to kind of get in the groove, because that had a bigger industry than what we did here.
I mean, what was your first, was that your first ever paid sort of gig as a stunt performer?
My first ever gig as a stunt performer was in 1988. I just got back from Australia from doing a pro rodeo tour for the bicentennial year. And of course, when you're about 19 years old, you have fun and you spend all your winnings and you tour around. And I come back from after about a 4-month stint in Australia, and my dad and John Scott and those guys, Brent Woolsey, are all doing a movie for Disney called Davy Crockett, a Western thing. And they said, hey, we need some help wrangling. They might even be able to use you as an Indian to be a stunt guy and do a little bit of that. And that was my very first job, 1988.
Wow. And that's it then. That's where history was made. I mean, was there any particular mentor or project early on that really shaped your approach to specifically stunt coordinating?
Well, probably in 89. It's like I said, Brent Woolsey, worked very closely with him for this big Japanese movie, and we trained a bunch of fallen horses and rearing horses for it. And he was a stunt coordinator, and I was kind of one of his right-hand man on that show. And I learned a lot from Brent, and I always say that was kind of the start of the mentorship. But when you're at that age, you don't want to be a boss. You just want to be the guy that performs and hits the ground, and you kind of want to be in the cool spot all the time. Being a coordinator is a little more stressful, because you got to hire the people, make sure they do a good job, and you got to deal with the directors and producers and everybody else, and it's 24/7.
So what made you go into being a coordinator? Is that because you've done so many stunts, you've now decided to not be the one necessarily risking themselves?
Well, definitely you don't bounce like I used to. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
It was funny. Because of whatever position I was in, it was fortunate enough I had a lot of opportunity to coordinate at times, and a lot of times I wouldn't. But as I grew older and became to grow a family and all that stuff, and with my work, I was on the road all the time. It was like between professional rodeo and doing stunts and film, it felt like I lived out of a duffel bag. And if I wasn't going to a rodeo, I was going to a movie set. And as the evolution turns, it just ended up being there's some work that started to happen in Calgary more that needed a coordinator, and I had more experience by then, and I was like, I could stay home and not have to get on a plane and kind of be with my family and do that. So from 2000 kind of 12 till now, I've been able to pretty much stay in Alberta and work full time pretty much, and it's just been better for a family and just my place. I got a small ranch, so there's always lots to do there.
And what does your family think of you coordinating now and not doing stunts? Because I can imagine a stunt performer's family often get a bit concerned, definitely with certain stunts. So do they worry less about you?
I don't. I think it's kind of all the same. I know when you're doing stunts, they've been around it. So, I mean, even though I still will jump in and go flip a bus or something every once in a while for a job, but I don't. I think it's there. It's all relative. I think it's all kind of the same. They know I'm probably a lot. I get a lot more stress when you're a coordinator, so your mind's you can snap a little quicker at back at the family when you're busy all the time. But when you're doing the stunt work, you're kind of the stress isn't as in a different way. It's more physical than mental. So it's just you go to your job, do your job, and go home.
Do you know what? I love it. You just said that maybe every now and again I might, I don't know, flip a bus, like it's something like simple, like anyone would be able to flip a bus, which is a wow. I mean, you've worked on so many sets with so many great names. I mean, have you ever had a pinch me moment, a moment on an iconic film set or working with a certain people? I mean, have you had a pinch me moment yet in your career?
Well, I think every once in a while you always have a pinch moment and go, wow, I can't believe I'm here. As I get older, it's not the same, but um, I mean, probably one of my highlights of my career when I was younger was like Happy Gilmore doubling Adam Sandler, which maybe at that moment wasn't a pinch me moment, but after the fact it is. It's like that was a great opportunity. I was in New Zealand on a rodeo tour there in '96, I believe it was, and then got a call to go to Mexico City to do Romeo and Juliet with, um, oh, there I go again. My names. Yeah, I banged my
It's
head
all
too
right.
many
We know
times.
Romeo and Juliet.
Leonardo DiCaprio and
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, to do that show, and Baz Luhrmann was the director, and to be able to say you were on, we spent 5 weeks in Mexico City filming there, and then some of the other guys carried on to Veracruz. Um, Total highlight of your career because that doesn't happen very often. I did a show with Costner and Duvall called Open Range, which was a great project to be on, but it's also kind of cool because after that, Duvall came back and I did another project with him called Broken Trail that um, was kind of a highlight of the career because just they wanted you to be there and be with them. It wasn't just because of you were hired because you were hired. You're hired because somebody high on the food chain wanted you there, which was Duvall, which was awesome.
I mean,
Um,
you've dropped so many great names there. I mean, just out of curiosity, through your career, have you met an actor that actually you thought would make for an amazing stunt performer? Because I know that the actors can't do a lot of their stunts for insurance reasons, but if they could, I mean, is there an actor that comes to mind that you think would make an excellent stunt performer?
oh, there's been quite a few that I've worked with that over the years you go, wow, they're better than their stunt double. Uh, I mean, no names jump out at me, but these guys were definitely, some guys drive cars, unreal, take them out for an hour and put them in a car and like, wow, they could outdo some of the stunt drivers we have to, guys hitting the ground and performing. It's like, wow, I don't even need to use a double for this guy. Uh, like I say, I don't have no names I could just sit there and literally give them. There's been lots of guys like that and
I mean,
gals even.
I know for the John Wick series, Keanu Reeves did quite a few of his stunts, and one of the main ones was the ones where he drove the car around the Champs-Élysées, and he picked up the gun while he was drifting the car, and apparently he did that himself, which I think's amazing to think
Yeah,
that.
no, it is. Well, it's definitely for a stunt coordinator, makes your job a little bit easier in some ways and makes it better for the show when you can actually shoot it with their face in it. It's sometimes it's like, how did they do that? It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
You know what I loved is, back in the 80s and 90s, because the quality wasn't there, you could sort of get away with a lot of things. But now with 4K, you've got to be very careful. I suppose they use CGI to map someone's face. But I used to always love, when I was a kid, finding out how they did these stunts. And to my surprise is when you pause a frame and you see it's not the actor and you see it's a
Yes.
stunt double. And that was what got me fascinated with the whole industry, because if and paused it, you would never know. I mean, you've worked on so many genres. What's the most challenging type of project for a stunt performer?
Um, I mean, everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. That question that's a hard one to answer because I grew up in the age of we didn't have the wire work and the CG, and now that really helps performers where they can bury or VisFX pads out. I mean, I was what I called back in the day the ground pounder. It was like I was the guy getting pulled off the roof and thrown to the ground, and a lot of times comparatively now to then, as you didn't have the time to set things up and build it. It was kind of you were doing it by the seat of your pants, and it's like, oh, between the directors and the coordinators, and it'd be like, okay, well, wouldn't it be cool if we could pull this guy on the roof and throw him on the ground here? And, oh yeah, hey guy, get over here. Guess what you're doing now? Or this guy's gonna come galloping through here and get shut off his horse. Well, there's no time to prep and get that ready. It's here we go. You're gonna eat shit and you know get up and do it again if you have to.
Wow. Wow. I mean, what's the most the common misconception people have about the stunt work in TV and film?
Um, I don't know if there's a misconception. It's like I said, it's changed for the better because there's a lot of the talent is grown and changed. It's kind of like acting has, right? Um, and between the stunt riggers and what we can do with wires and a little bit of CG, I'm a true believer in that CG is there to help us, not hinder us, and we can do some things safer. But there's a lot of things that can be cheated, and there's some things that can't. I don't think people have to hit the ground as much as we used to. I think that's been went away a little bit, but there's still lots of hard stuff to do. I mean, car stuff has changed in the sense that in the old days, usually you could slide a car. Now you have to have a picture car team to be able to build them and make them work so that you can slide them. So that's changed, but you just got to keep evolving and moving with the changes and how to do things, and and be able to create and think of outside the box to make things work.
I mean, do you think the industry for the stunt community has become more challenging as such? Because when you mentioned there about cars, I mean, back in the 90s, 80s, and 90s, they were doing the traditional sort of car stunts, but now with the likes of Fast and Furious and films like that, it's become a hell of a lot more challenging, and the audiences are requiring more stimulation on screen. So has that put a lot more pressure on the stunt community to actually perform these stunts?
Well, I think now when you have to do that, you have the time to train for it. So if you have a big sequence like the Fast and Furious, I mean, one drifting and all that other stuff is evolved into our industry a little bit more. That's made guys better in certain situations. Again, picture cars and building the cars and knowing how they work. We don't have like before, like the Smokey and the Bandits, where you have 20 drivers on a job. It's more like there might be only 4 drivers now on a job. So it's taken away a little bit of the work in some ways, but it also has created some stuff that like you sit there and go, wow, I can't believe those guys could pull that off. It's unreal.
Yeah. I mean, What's been the most difficult stunt that you've ever had to perform?
Oh, that's I
Or maybe,
I
the one that gave you the most jellied legs afterwards, the one that really shook you afterwards.
well, I've had lots of those. I guess probably for me, my highlight probably was I was working on a series called Highlander, the series years ago in Vancouver, and I just remember they had to do a car hit on Adrian Paul, who was played the Highlander, and a buddy of mine was going to be driving the car, and they were worried about the guy that was doubling him, hurting him, and they just went, "Well, you should get Guy. You can't hurt him. He's a cowboy." So I just remember the car had to be going fast enough for it to hit me and slide the corner at the same time, and I had to be facing the car, and I just remember as he was driving at me, he's going way faster than I think it needs to be. But as I was trying to get on the car, the hood of it was a Lincoln Town car, I believe, or no, it was a Cadillac. And they, as that front end of that car come through, and I was trying to get off the ground and elevate up get on the hood of the car, it blew my knee pads around my ankles and sent me up. I didn't even break the windshield. I hit the top of the car, and the car started sliding. I went flying off down into the pavement. And at that time, it was a young part of my career, and I just remember rolling, and the thing was stay in your position, don't move, so they can replicate it with the actor and get him in there. And you couldn't hear a pin drop after the stunt happened, and everybody thought I was dead. They were
Wow.
like, "Guy, you okay? Yeah, you're okay." And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm good. Okay." But I was at the same time, I'm laying there on the ground and going, "Holy crap, my knee pads aren't even on my knees." And I just remember just walking around the corner and going, "Oh, they're a little sore, but I'm okay. This is good." And that was kind of the one that I kind of went from being the cowboy to a guy that could actually do more than just ride horses.
Wow. Just out of curiosity, I mean, in Canada, I'm not sure what the health system's like, if it's the same with the US, but because you were a stunt performer, does that make your health insurance a lot higher?
Well, it doesn't make our health insurance higher. We're fortunate enough we have health plans for Canadians, even though sometimes it's hard to get what you need done. But if you're definitely hurt, through our actors union, we have some extended health care. Thank God for stunt performers. But yeah, if you had to get life insurance, yeah, that's a no go.
Bless you. But you know what? There is some good news about the stunt community. So I've had a lot of people on my show, like Jack Gill, Stephen Dunleavy,
Yeah.
a lot of stunt coordinators and stunt performers as well. And the same question is being asked every time. And I'm glad that now I can talk to you about it, because it's came to life, which is the Oscars, which,
Yeah.
after decades of campaigning, the stunt community now will have recognition at the Oscars in a category. So what does that feel like, because you do have your Taurus Awards, but what does it feel like now actually finally, and, it couldn't it come any sooner, but now you get an Oscar, recognition. How does that feel?
It is a great feeling, especially for myself and the community. And to all those guys that advocated for this for the last 10 years that have been working so hard to push this through. I'm still a bit of an old school where I believe we're kind of should be the behind the scene guys or whatever it is. But I also believe that, especially in this day and age, some of these sequences and what they put into a film or whatever it is to give you the belief and how true it is, such an honor to be able to recognize somebody for their hard work.
Definitely. And do you know what? Don't get me wrong. I mean, makeup is important, wardrobe is important, and these have been part of the Oscar categories. But it's always astonished me, like every single year, that there's no recognition, especially when there's movies like Marvel movies and movies that literally are very heavy, in that direction, that there's no recognition. But this is going to be, I think the voting will be for 2027. So 2028 is
Yes.
when we'll have that category. So I hope that the stunt community comes out in force to celebrate whoever gets nominated and
Oh,
wins.
I think it's such a great thing for the community, definitely around the world. Something that you'll be able to showcase what they've worked, because some of these movies are completely sold on what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it wasn't for people like yourself, these big movie action stars wouldn't be action stars. Do you know what I mean? So it's
No,
it's important that we recognize that. I wanted to ask as well that looking through all your IMDb, this is one of the films that I went to the cinema to watch in IMAX in full glory, which was Ghostbusters
oh,
Afterlife. And I would lie if I said I didn't cry towards the end. But for me, being a kid of the 80s and watching the originals and even going to the cinema to watch the second one, what was this like to work on? Because this is such an iconic, franchise. So to be part of this, what was that like?
Ghostbusters was again another highlight. Great bunch of people. It was a lot of work. Marnie Ing was a cohort of mine that I work with all the time. That's a great lady. That's also a stunt coordinator. So I had to run second unit for me. And between, main unit dealing with the actors, the car was a huge thing because they wanted this car to kind of drift and do all these things, which took some work. But the boys in LA were building the cars and they shipped up here. There's times we were flipping our schedule because we had two of them, and we were either sending one back to get refixed because they're a big, heavy boat with a big motor in it. The guys did everything we could to keep those things on the road because we were busting them up all the time. It was insane how much time and effort was into all that work to make it work. Bryan Spurs, the second unit director, is a great guy and knows what he's doing. So, like I said, the actors on that show, it was a great show to be on and part of.
And I wonder where those cars are now. Hopefully they're not in a scrap heap somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure they're not. I'm sure they used them on what was the
Oh, the frozen,
yeah.
yeah, that one.
I'm sure I know they shot a little spot in New York with them, so I'm sure they pulled them out of the cobwebs from somewhere and used them. I wouldn't have, because there's not a lot of those around anymore. So I'm sure they had them sat somewhere ready for some other time, or even doing promos with them.
Yeah, I know a gentleman in the UK that runs a very big Comic Con, and he's been searching for so many years for one. He's actually found one. So it's unconverted or anything like that. It's literally a blank canvas. So I look forward to seeing what he does with that. I mean, when you look at your industry and you look at new stunt performers coming into the industry, what advice would you give to someone who wants to break into the stunt world today?
Well, now it's like you want to be kind of a jack of all trades. Like when I started, it was either you had a skill somebody else didn't have, or you looked like somebody, is how you kind of got in. Now it's just being an all around talented person and having as many skills as you possibly can. Like an old guy from LA told me one time when I was working with him, he said, if you can fight and drive cars, you'll always work. Now I'm going to say, if you can fight, drive cars, you're going to a little bit of gymnastics to parkour to like the fight world's massive, especially you see some of these guys and the moves they can do is phenomenal. So that whole world, if you can do that, some guys are, my specialty at one time was the horses now. And then I kind of moved on to the cars and of course eating shit and hitting the ground. But, now it's turned more into, you need a little, because there's some things they need that fancier kind of tricking type stuff. And then after that, it's just being a good person and paying attention and know how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed speaking with people like Bobby Hanton and a lot of stunt performers like Buster Reeves, that a lot of stunt performers now they learn so many disciplines, not just one, and it's like they've got like
Yeah.
six different things in their bag, and I suppose that's because maybe the industry's become quite competitive now, with all these stunt performers wanting to work.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, it's unreal how global the stunt community is now comparatively to 30 years ago. I mean, there's always been stunt people across the world, but it just seems like with the streaming and the amount of shows being shot in Europe to Australia, New Zealand, North America to, yeah, even South Africa's had their times.
And, finally looking back over your whole career, have you got like your proudest moment either in front of the camera performing stunts or behind?
Um, yeah, like I say, I always like I say, the cool things like a Happy Gilmore was a highlight just because it's kind of Adam Sandler's coming out movie, I guess you could
Yeah.
say, or one of his highlights. And, to be the guy that got hit by the car and did the fight with Bob Barker. That one's always great. Like I say, The Last of Us is always, even though you're on it and your head's down and your ass is up and you're going flat out to get everything done, when it's all over and you get to see it on the screen, it's a great achievement. And the same as, Open Range was a great one. They all have their pluses and minuses, but it's being able to see a good end product is what you always want to put on, and something good. You don't want to sit there and go, "Oh, I hated that." You want to. The other thing that's disheartening though is sometimes when you do something really cool and great and was awesome, but they decide to cut it because it didn't work for their film. Those are always the ones you go, "Oh, probably some of my best gags never got to even see it on. Nobody ever got to see them because you cut it out of the movie."
And that always breaks my heart when I find out that even actors, they are in a film, then they're not in the final edit, and I just think, why? And it's so rotten to think of. I mean, just two more questions for you. One of your credits, this is going back a few years, Guy. So one of your credits is on Black Fox with the late great
Yes.
Tony Todd, and also one of
Yeah.
my idols, Christopher Reeve. Did you have any interaction with them? And is there anything that you can share about working on those films?
Oh, that there was a trilogy. It was a mini series, and my dad and brother were the wranglers on that show. And then at the same time, we were doing Legends of the Fall with Brad Pitt. So I was jumping back and forth between both sets. But Tony Todd was a class act man. He's just like one of the boys, and Christopher Reeves too. I mean, that's going back what, 93? I want to say it
Mm.
was. We did that somewhere in those years, and it's, yeah, and that was early in my career, so I was on the go at that time. I was it was kind of, for me, it was like heaven because I was working on Highlander, I was working on Legends of the Fall, and I was working on Black Fox. And like I said, Tony Todd, Christopher Reeves, that whole, the Western genre of what we were doing, the Cowboys and Indians, it was classic times back then.
And it brings to light how dangerous your industry can be, because you look at Christopher Reeve, and he was an accomplished horse rider, and he entered equestrian events, and he had an accident and ended up paralyzed. So it just shows what things can happen. And I'm glad to see the industry has become a lot safer over the years. And through talking to you in this interview, you've clearly demonstrated how it has changed, because back in the day you'll be hitting the ground quite hard, and now I suppose there's a lot less of that going on.
Well, yeah, there's, like I say, there's a little more planning, and you can figure things out on how to do them in a uh, definitely a safer manner, and in a smarter, like in a more efficient way that helps. I still, when you're working with animals like in the westerns, it's still kind of grittier than it is in the real world compared. to it is now. I'm working with Brent Woolsey, a friend of mine right now, on a series called Billy the Kid, and it's going back. It's kind of fun to work on because it's like old school days. You got to go out there and you're going to either run down the street here and get shot off your horse, and you got to land here, and it's like, well, here we go. We're not burying pads. You can't. I did a job one time where they were gonna, same thing. They said, well, we'll put all pads down and have them fall into pads. And I said, what are you gonna bring, a semi truck of them? Because I guarantee you, them horses aren't gonna get even close to them. So you're better off to take an ass busting and get it shot, and they'll make your coverage easier, and away you go. That in my world is hard to get around now in that Western genera world. There's some things we do, don't get me wrong, but all the other work we do, yeah, you definitely got time to plan things out, look at it, and make it safer and smarter. Especially now with stunt riggers and that, the stuff we can do with wire work and stuff like that is phenomenal.
And how's things going on Billy the Kid? Because it's in its final season, and I've interviewed some of the cast like Sean Benson and Lisa Chandler from last season.
Yeah,
and I love the show. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, no, it's, you know what, it's like a big happy family there. All those actors are like a big family, and everybody gets together, and a lot of weekends they'll go hang out. Sometimes they'll go to like the Calgary Stampede, or if that's on while it's going, and just the set is a good place to be, and you're there to show up and do your job. It's like, it's going back to kind of my youth in a weird way. It's enjoyable to see, and a good bunch of people. You're happy to go to work there.
And it's made so well as well. Honestly, I was hooked with the first season, and I get the opportunity with MGM to watch them before they come out. So I can't wait to get that email from MGM to give me the episodes before they're released. And then one final question. With all these shows, with all these films, have you kept any mementos, any things to remember your projects by?
Well, I guess I'd have maybe a few trinkets. Nothing that jumps out at me. It's like Fargo give us all snow globes of each season, and those are kind of cool because it reminds you of those years. I mean, a lot of times it's a backpack or a baseball cap or a sweatshirt. But otherwise, I think it's all up in there. And as long as they pay me so I can pay my bills, I'm happy.
Fair enough. And the hat that you've got on, Stunts Canada, is that like sort of an organization in Canada? I mean, is that?
Yes, it's an organization of stunt performers in Western Canada that was started back in 1970. And fortunately, I'm been lucky enough to be a part of them. I think it was 1991 they let me join their group, and there's quite a few of the cowboys that I worked with over the years. Like my dad was part of it, John Scott, Brent Woolsey, Tom Glass, and then Alex Green. He's actually an Aussie that was one of the creators of it from Vancouver, and some other, the Wardlow brothers, and if you ever heard of Thomas Special Effects, which was John Thomas, he was somewhat a help and part of it growing in Canada in that time with those years. And it's slowly grown now to, there's close to around 100 members in it, not all working anymore. Some of the guys are getting a little older and retired, but just something to try to bring to the table of professional people that are here. And a lot of times now it's more to keep everybody apprised of what's going on and make sure we're all doing the right things and moving forward.
Excellent. I will put all the links to everything on this video, but I might try and get in touch with Stunts Canada and ask for a hat, because I collect all stunt memorabilia. So I've got stuff from the stunt team for Superman and Lois, which was made in Vancouver. So I've got like stunt hats, and Jack Gill sent me some stunt stuff as well. So I'm a massive collector of anything stunt related. So I might reach out to...
I'm sure we can hook you up.
Oh, that would be amazing. But Guy, thank you so much for coming onto the show. And I hope that I've given the audiences a glimpse into what makes the magic behind the camera, because we can't forget the hard work that happens behind the camera, because without that, we wouldn't have the magic in front of it. So thank you so much, Guy, for being a great guest. Look after yourself and keep safe, my friend.
And Bryan, thank you very much. It was great chatting with you.